everybody. That's my demon voice. You like that?
Oh, that was terrifying.
Welcome to the Dead Time Radio Show. I'm Billy. I'm here with my buddy Don. Hi, Don.
Hey, what's happening?
It is a new episode for you to ponder and peruse and listen. And we just want to tell you we're having fun doing it. We're glad we're back. And today's episode is going to be kind of cool because it's stuff I like to talk about. A lot of people don't know about because they weren't even born when this happened. But I was. I was born. It was probably me that did it, and they'll never find me. We're going to talk about the Amityville Horror case and the people who investigated it in the paranormal way, which would be Ed and Lorraine Warren, which are a very controversial couple. Dawn does not believe that they're a real couple of paranormal investigators. She thinks they're frauds. And I am on the fence, but I don't know. Some of the stuff that they have is compelling. And the fact that a lot of movies were made from their prior investigations. A lot of good horror movies. A lot of people would know. And we're going to talk about all that stuff today. But first, how you been, Dawn?
I've been great. I've been good.
What you been up to?
Slow good. Not really went to the flea market. It was exciting.
Did you buy any fleas?
Just one.
Just one?
Yeah.
What'd you name him?
Miss Flea McFleeterson.
That's a good name for a flea.
Yeah.
Flea McFleeterson.
I can't find him though. I lost him already.
He's probably in your crotch.
He's probably what?
You got crotch fleas.
I do not have. It was one. It's just one. They can't multiply if there's just
don't
one.
They reproduce asexually?
I don't think they're frogs. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know either.
I'll have to investigate that.
I
guess I should have done more research.
I think bed bugs do.
Ew. Why would I switch to bed bugs? Yeah,
bugs
so
are
if
gross.
you have bed bugs and you come into the hospital, we have to shut everything down.
Yeah, it's gross.
For 24 hours. The Orkin man has to come and spray everything.
Dawn had an eventful night last night. She got punched in the boob by a patient.
I got a tit punch, yes.
It's beautiful.
Tit punch. It was not beautiful.
Oh, well. For him, it was.
When
It
you
was his whole world.
question-
That poor guy. I felt bad for that guy.
Yeah, it was.
That was a mess.
When you slide somebody over and their natural response for a very large, strong man is to punch out sideways.
Well, he did have a broken hip, so it was a pain punch.
I mean, he transferred all of his energy to my right tit, so...
That's a little swole.
Full swole. Well, it's even with my left one since I'm left-handed, so I guess that's...
My boobs are kind of swole today, too. I think I'm on my period.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Billy and I are on the same cycle.
All right, so the Amityville Horror, if people don't know, was something that happened when I was 3 years old. Now I'm dating myself.
Yes, you are.
30 miles outside of New York City, nestled in the Long Island of Amityville, stands the house forever linked to the Amityville Horror phenomenon. On November 13th, 1974, the estate was the scene of mass murder. Using a .35 Marlin rifle, 23-year-old Ronald J. DeFeo Jr. murdered his entire family while they were asleep, which included his parents and 4 siblings. 13 months later, the Lutz family purchased the home at a drastically reduced price of $80,000. I'd love to buy a house for $80,000 nowadays. Due to the murders, but only lasted 28 days before leaving it. Their spine-tingling tales of paranormal activity are what propelled the legend of the Amityville Horror and spawned a torrent of books, documentaries, and films. This is off of biography.com, by the way. Check out some of the scary facts claimed by the Lutz family, as well as other interesting ones about the infamous house whose horror has yet to die. The Lutz family experienced supernormal activity. Stepfather George Lutz had a history of dabbling in the occult. George was said to wake up at 3:15 every morning, which was around the time Ron carried out his murders. The Lutz family claimed to smell strong odors, see green slime oozing out of the walls and keyholes, and experience cold spots in certain areas of the house.
Okay, hold on. Just that, what is the green slime? Why would you have slime coming out of the walls?
It became such a big urban legend around this time.
That can't be real.
Yeah, but we were always told it wasn't green slime, that it was blood.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Seeping from
so
the
now
walls.
It's green slime.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I mean, like, I've heard of walls sweating. Like,
Right.
if you have pipes in the walls and cold and hot and all that stuff, your walls
Ball
sweat.
sweating.
You have green slime on your balls.
Ooh, Ooh.
Oozing out the wall, though,
It's
and
called
keyholes.
lubricant.
Shh, no. Ladies, stay far away.
No, don't stay away.
No,
baby.
yes, please.
I don't know, man. I always was told it was always blood, so I never heard the green slime thing. That's something new to me as well.
So this happened before I was born, but
Yeah.
like when I was, when the movies came out, it wasn't green slime, it was blood.
Yeah. When a priest came to bless the house, he allegedly heard a voice scream, "Get out." He told the Lutzes to never sleep in that particular room in the house. That's the one that I had mentioned in a prior show about. That was the room that was full of flies. Remember?
Yeah, we've talked about the fly thing
Yeah.
before. I told you my story
Yeah.
about the flies. Yeah, so.
So, and that creeped out
But
the priest.
flies eat blood, so flies eat
Yeah.
necrotic things.
Corpse flies.
So, yeah.
Other paranormal activity, a nearby garage door opening and closing, an invisible spirit knocking a knife down in the kitchen, a pig-like creature with red eyes staring down at George and his son Daniel from a window. I told you about that. They named him Jody. George waking up to wife Kathy levitating off their bed. Sons Daniel and Christopher also levitating together in their beds. The family that levitates together stays together. And many questioned the validity of the Lutz's story. After telling their story, George and Kathy took a lie detector test to prove their innocence, and they passed. The couple was bogged down in legal and financial issues, which prompted skeptics to believe that they had the motive to create a fantastical story to sell to the public. The Lutz's former lawyer, William Weber, who fell out with them over money issues, came out in 1979 claiming that the three of them came up with the horror story over many bottles of wine.
Yep.
Son Daniel, who lives a quiet life in Queens, New York, as a stonemason, claims the house ruined his life and that he continues to have nightmares to this day. Murderer Ron, who's still alive and serving 6 25-year life sentences at a New York correctional facility, claimed he heard voices urging him to kill his family. He has since changed his story multiple times.
Yeah, he knows he can get away with it.
Now,
just the way he brutally murdered them.
I can understand the parents trying to capitalize on this and make money, but what does the son have in it that he would continuously say that his life was ruined from that house? That he still has nightmares?
The son that used to live in the house?
Yeah. Why would he continuously keep saying that it ruined his life?
I don't know.
He has nothing to gain anymore.
Well, it said they were having financial issues, so if your parents are arguing, it kind of...
Right, but he's talking about nightmares about shit that he saw.
Yeah.
You know? And he doesn't really have anything to gain for it anymore. Nobody's going to be like, I'm going to give you $2 million today because you're still saying that you're ruined by that house.
I'm not saying that if that many people get murdered in a house, that there's not going to be something happening there.
Yeah, I'm sure they embellished.
So,
I'm 100%
absolutely.
sure they
and then
embellished.
the reason why the son that murdered all the people did it, or said it, is so that they would he'd get like an insanity defense. And then he would be in an insane asylum rather than in a full-on prison.
He was possessed by Dermans.
No, he wasn't. I
didn't say demons, I said Dermans.
They told him he couldn't do something, so he decided to murder his dad first and then his mom and then all of his siblings. It's like, who?
You're getting way ahead of yourself, young
I'm
lady.
just telling you, it's
The Amityville House
BS.
officially sold in February 2017 to an undisclosed owner for $605,000, which was $200,000 less than the original asking price. It had been previously owned by 4 other families since the murders, one of which had the address changed to 108 Ocean Avenue. So the original house stood at 112 Ocean Avenue. Well, why did they fucking just give the new one out? The guy didn't want anybody to know the house. And then this fucking page just said, oh, it's 108, in case you were wondering. How retarded is that?
well, that's the February 17th. I'm sure everybody knows because you have the internet.
So silly. All right, so that's Ron DeFeo. There's a picture of him on Topic.com, the true twisted story of the Amityville Horror. Now, this one talks about, this is the attorney's office in Pachogue, New York. What a bunch of Long Island newspaper reporters thought they would hear on February 13th, 1976, as they were hustled into a modest book-lined attorney's offices in the village of Pachogue, New York. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Pachogue, probably.
Yeah.
In that room that morning, the press would be introduced for the first time, but certainly not the last, to George and Kathleen Lutz. two relative newlyweds of indeterminate employment who had very suddenly left their dream house in Amityville the month before. Rumors had been floating through this sleepy area on the south shore of Long Island that the Lutzes had left because the house was haunted. George and Kathleen Lutz, in their mid-30s, looked like a normal couple, at least for the 70s. He had lots of pin-straight, light brown hair and a full beard. She had a blonde, feathered haircut that framed a round, sweet face. In the press conference, George did more of the talking. He took the tone of someone who had been forced, reluctantly, and after long consideration, to come forward with his story. He said he didn't want to get into details, but yes, he said a very strong force had driven his family from the house.
Because he didn't want to lie. Because you're a lie face.
Yeah, his lawyer probably.
So you got married, you moved into a new house, and then you fucking bit off more than you can chew, and then now you can't live there anymore. So you create this fantastical story.
Here's what I don't understand, though, okay? Because this is some... He wanted to correct some facts, so he's even kind of breaking it down. No, his family had not seen human shapes and flying objects in their home. No, they had not heard of wailing sounds and seen moving couches. But yes, they had left the house after only owning it for a month with just 3 changes of clothes apiece because of our concern for our own personal safety as a family. So, I mean, if you're going to go all out, I guess they were going all out and just brought 3 changes of clothes. Why would you do that if it was fake?
You wanted to make it real. We're going to be in the poorhouse or have to file bankruptcy. I don't know. Let's read more and see.
Yeah. And that was about all he was willing to share for the present time. The reporters tried to press Lutz for more details, but he would not be specific, as the Newsday writer reported with evident frustration. Lutz did say he would not spend another night in the house if asked to do so by researchers, but he also said he's not planning to sell the house right now, the reporter wrote.
Why is that? That's weird.
Well, he probably doesn't want somebody else to have to deal with it until he can figure out how to get a handle on it. If he can find somebody to, like, take care of what's going on in the house or whatever. He doesn't want some other family to have to deal with that.
Bless it, get the demon out.
I can guarantee you that there's some spirits in that fucking house.
Yeah, that means people dying. There's that energy. And maybe it was residual. And maybe they heard, gunshots. Or maybe they heard screams. Or you don't know.
Right. Within a day of the press conference, the lawn of this house, a Dutch colonial perched on a waterway at 112 Ocean Avenue, was full of people who had decided to come investigate matters themselves. They came mostly from neighboring towns in Long Island. They parked along the street. Some were accompanied by their children. I'm interested in an unexplained phenomena, said a father who brought his 12-year-old son. I was here the other night with my other son. We watched the electric meter for a while, and I swear it slowed down. Of course, it could have been the refrigerator. All right, so as you can tell, in the 1970s, there wasn't much to do. Gets kind of boring.
Yeah.
On a hot summer night.
Yeah.
So you sit by your neighbor's house and look at his fucking electric monitor.
You're going to sit on the side of the house and stare at a wheel spinning.
Right. Fucking silly. All right. One would like to believe that journalists have enough common sense not to believe in ghosts. But in the 1970s, American culture was awash in superstition. It was a time rather like our own, filled with economic and political instability. The Lutz family's press conference took place 18 months after Watergate had forced Richard Nixon to resign the presidency, and the onslaught of upsetting news had led everyone to question conventional facts and truth. It was unclear whether the stable laws of the universe still held.
So they also did not say where they were employed or what jobs they had.
Right.
So what...
I don't know if that has anything to do with it, though.
I know, but if you're not gainfully employed, you're not going to be able to afford a house, even if at $80,000.
Well, obviously, he was gainfully employed to be able to buy a house for $800,000.
It's at 80.
Or 80, yeah. I mean, shit.
I mean, they'll loan anything
nowadays. That's like, what, $50 a month?
Yeah.
Anger and fear were everywhere. And often enough, they bloomed into outright delusions. Couple that with the remnants of the New Age philosophies of the 1960s, shaking a little bit of good old American folklore, and you got something like what the Lutz family story would eventually be, the Amityville Horror, a story that would inspire several books and more than a half a dozen films, spanning from the 1979 original blockbuster starring James Brolin and Margot Kidder to the rather poorly reviewed middling effort released just this past October 12th called Amityville: The Awakening, starring Jennifer Jason Leigh and Bella Thorne. Yeah, they went a little silly with the new movies. But that original movie was pretty good to me. Maybe I'm weird.
No, at the time it was like you thought, it's real. Oh my God, it's real. Let's watch this. So, but they were embellished. They're going to embellish it if it's to make it a movie, because the movie's not going to be, see that chair rocking over there? Right. Ooh, that chair's rocking. That's not going to be a good movie.
Do you smell that?
Smell that?
He doesn't tell you that he just had 12 boiled eggs.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Smell that noxious gas in my house? Mm-hmm. That came from your ass, sir. Mm-hmm. So the people who also brought this whole thing up and made themselves very famous with it was a couple named Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now, they're very controversial people. Some people believe them wholeheartedly. Some people completely think they're frauds. I'm on the fence because I don't know either here nor there what's true and what isn't. And, of course, that's just my logic brain going, all right, well, let's look at all the details. Although I do kind of lean on the side of possibly believing them, because there's a lot of stories that they came up with. So either they were really prolific fantasy tale tellers, or they actually were one of the up-and-coming paranormal investigators of their time.
Right. I'm not saying in the beginning when they started out as paranormal investigators. It was just like us, like they were doing it for the right reasons. Right. But then when the cash cow came in and they're like, hey, look, we can make a lot of money. Look, we can just do that. Yeah.
Right.
Let's just add this in there and that in there.
And that's understandable. Yeah. I mean,
they won't let people in when they're doing what they're doing. I mean.
Right. I mean, because a lot of the ghost shows that we watch, a lot of that shit's embellished.
Right.
Because it has to be entertaining.
Right. You're not going to watch something that's,
Right. And I go in knowing that, but I also go in there with the analytical part, trying to see how they find these things and listening to the evidence and making it my own mind up.
My point. Look at how long it took us to gather evidence at the hospital.
Yeah, 3 months.
That's my point. These people go in there one night. I mean, like, that doesn't make sense. Like, logically, as to the investigations that that we've already done.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like in the beginning,
look at how much we got on the Yorktown in one night. So if you think about it that way, but
that was vast. I mean, that was like thousands of men were on that ship. Right. So these aren't thousands of people.
Right.
These
this is like a family of 6 or something like that.
So it's just.
No, I totally get it. I get it. So this is off of Ranker.com. Ed and Lorraine Warren Controversies by Christopher Schultz. Before shows like Ghost Adventures captivated audiences and long before ghost hunters started posting creepy videos on social media, there was Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed Warren was a former police officer and self-described demonologist, and Lorraine claimed to be a psychic who communicate with spirits. Together, the Warrens' names have been attached to some of the best-known paranormal cases in the latter half of the 20th century. The couple even opened an occult museum in their Connecticut home, featuring artifacts from their most famous cases. While many believe in the Warrens wholeheartedly, a fair number of paranormal investigators and skeptics have questioned the legitimacy of the couple's findings. Here are some of Ed and Lorraine Warren's most controversial cases in their decades-long career. So the first one, of course, is the Amityville Horror.
Right.
And it says, the Amityville Horror case may not have been a true story after all. Amityville is perhaps the most famous Warren case, and thus it's the most thoroughly investigated. Here are the facts. 1974 in Amityville, New York, Ronald DeFeo Jr. killed his entire family in the middle of the night. Then later claimed he heard voices plotting against him. Roughly a year later, George and Kathleen Lutz moved into the home with their 3 children. The Lutzes then began claiming they were experiencing unexplainable phenomena and nightmares, and that they were surrounded by demonic entities. Their story eventually turned into the book The Amityville Horror by Jay Anson in 1977, as well as a movie of the same name in 1979. The Warrens came to investigate the house, bringing along a film crew from a local news affiliate. The investigation has been referred to as a psychic slumber party by skeptics, but Lorraine sensed great malevolence in the house and insisted it was infested with demonic entities. This TV appearance cemented the Warrens as experts in the field of paranormal research, despite the fact that they presented no physical evidence of their findings. A photo of a ghost boy taken at the house is said to be proof of the haunting, but it is widely thought to be a hoax. I mean, They did bring in a news crew, a local news crew. And I don't know if they did that just to kind of boost their stuff, but
right.
Yeah, they came back with like absolutely no evidence but one picture.
Yeah.
I don't know. You'd have to go there more than just one time.
Right. That's my point.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do we go back to all the places that we've been back to?
I still believe that the Amityville Horror is a true story as far as the haunting stuff. Because, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's, my nostalgia from being a kid and hearing this and it's scaring the shit out of me.
Yeah, you were watching it on the news, you're hearing your parents talk about it, and that was your first ghost story that, they got you hooked.
But, as I got older and looked into things, of course there's got to be paranormal activity in that house. A whole family was murdered violently.
Right.
And that leaves a huge amount of residual
energy.
Look at
the babies. Like, the babies. They were,
So, I'd give my left nut to be able to go check that house out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To find out for myself, because
I would too.
That's the kind of person I am.
I don't have nuts, but I'm saying I would like to investigate. But there again, like you said, the investigations that I tend to believe more are the ones where they're there for like 72 hours or something like that.
Right.
Like we were talking about the ones
like Paranormal Lockdown.
Yeah, the lockdown. They're there for 72 hours.
That's a good show.
They're there. They're in the energy. They they get more evidence in that time period because they're there the whole entire time.
Right. So Annabelle, the haunted doll, could have been inspired by the Twilight Zone. If everybody knows Annabelle, that's a newer movie that came out.
Okay, first of all, can I make a PSA? Those kind of dolls are... Oh, shit, she's digging on the door again.
Yeah, she's
Billy.
over at the latrine. She's digging on the latrine door.
I just freaked out a little bit.
Yeah. My dog, just so everybody knows, she has decided that my guest room has either an
someone in it
or something, because she goes over there and she scratches on the door and cries and wants to go in. And right now she's scratching on the latrine door because she likes to go in there and drink from the toilet, and Daddy's not going to let her do that.
Nope.
But she is wearing her spooky bandana.
She does have her cute spooky bandana. She took off running when I came in the door, so we had to...
All right, so continue what you were saying.
So dolls are creepy. Not just all dolls, but like the ones that have the porcelain faces where their eyes lift when you set them up, and, they have like real hair, and it's just...
Now, was Annabelle the movie, or was it in a different movie? No, it was Annabelle, wasn't it? That just came out like a couple years ago, didn't it?
It was a remake, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Annabelle is the doll that supposedly...
Is Pizzazz.
They have them in this museum. Have her in the museum. Yeah. Basically, yes.
One of the biggest difficulties investigating any of the Warrens' cases is that scant information exists outside of what the Warrens themselves have provided. This is especially true in the case of the infamous Annabelle doll. According to Joseph Laycock in his article, The Paranormal to Pop Culture Pipeline, a nursing student received a Raggedy Ann doll from her mother in 1970. When the doll exhibited strange behavior, a medium revealed that the doll was possessed by a dead woman named Annabelle Higgins. The student and her roommate took pity on the spirit and gave Annabelle permission to inhabit the doll. However, frightening events began occurring soon after, and the student contacted the Warrens to investigate. According to the ghost hunting couple, a demon was inside the doll, and it was intent on murder. The Warrens took the doll back to their museum and put it on display for safety's sake. Before his passing, Ed Warren would apparently warn museum visitors that the last man to mock Annabelle ended up perishing in a motorcycle crash, though he provided no names or evidence for this claim. Laycock also points out that a 1963 episode of The Twilight Zone centered around a woman named Annabelle who gives her daughter a doll that comes to life and terrorizes the family.
Right.
Now.
So first of all, this picture that they have up here, Raggedy Ann, I don't know if you know, usually it's cloth, and they have it has like a triangle. I had one. I had Raggedy Ann and Andy.
Right, it's got red and white
It's got yarn hair. It's got the triangle
sleeves
nose, and the eyes are sewn in.
That's definitely not a Raggedy Ann
So it's
doll.
not a porcelain doll. The Raggedy Ann doll is just cloth.
It's just a cloth doll. Now,
my mom still has mine, so yeah.
My question is, if they took the doll and the doll is all about murder, how come they weren't murdered?
Right. What kept them from... I guess because he's a fake demonologist that never went to any schooling or never...
Right. And then they mock Annabelle. Anybody who mocks Annabelle ends up perishing in a motorcycle crash. Well, what happens if you don't have a motorcycle?
I just think he was trying to build it up because he put her in their museum so they get more money.
Right.
Like, just they have to create a story.
Look for people on motorcycles and smash into them and go, "Oh, you mocked Annabelle."
Maybe he was a cop.
Yeah, well,
no, I'm kidding.
Now
We love
there's
cops.
two sides to every story, so that's why I'm maintaining my judgment until
Right.
because I mean but it's not looking good for them in the fact,
how-
that they haven't really provided a lot of evidence over everything. And
And
it's kind
all
of
these major
coincidental,
movies.
Right. It's all coincidental that the Twilight Zone had something all about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At the same time.
So here's one. The case that inspired The Conjuring has come under intense scrutiny as well. Now, the Perron family haunting was the basis for the hit 2013 film The Conjuring. While certain events depicted in the film were exaggerated for the purposes of spectacle, Lorraine Warren and one of the Perron daughters, Andrea, both insist it was mostly accurate to real-life events. Outside sources contest this, however, and they have a fair amount of evidence to back up their claims. Primarily, the current owner of the supposedly possessed house, Norma Sutcliffe, researched the history of her home and discovered many factual errors presented as truth by the Perron family, the Warrens, and subsequently the filmmakers behind The Conjuring. She also sued Warner Brothers due to an influx of trespassers following the film's release. Sutcliffe produced a video detailing her research, which alleges that the witch featured in the film, Bathsheba Sherman, was anything but, and that any satanic worship or infant sacrifices were pure fabrication. Sutcliffe's evidence is further detailed by Andy Smith in an article for the Providence Journal and is corroborated by Jamie Rubio on the investigative blog Dreaming Casually. While there very well may have been paranormal activity inside the Perron home, a substantial amount of information contradicts the Warren's findings.
Right. So once you start embellishing, people aren't going to believe you. They'll be like, oh, why should I believe anything that you say? That's kind of where I sit on this fence. Like, I'm sure these houses that they go to do have,
Well, dude, especially in New England. I mean, that place is one of the oldest places in the country other than Jamestown, Virginia.
Right.
So there's a shit ton of stuff that went on up there.
Right.
I mean, you've got Salem that's right up there that they killed 19 people that they accused of being witches, and none of them were.
They were never witches, right? And now they've profited off of that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Now the
now it's a
fake
witch
witches
town.
go in there and
now I just don't.
Sell their wares and go, ooh, I'm going to read your fortune.
That's a hypocrite. Yeah, I don't want to be there. I don't want to go there because I don't. Yeah, no.
It's a sad place, to be honest. I've been there multiple times, and the only reason is because I'm a history buff, and it's just really sad, the ignorance that some of the colonists had in the very beginning.
And for you to believe children's tales. So.
Yeah, well, that's why I don't have any kids, because they're lying little shits. I'm sorry for the scratching in the background. Mara really wants to drink toilet water. All right, one writer claims that the Warrens knew the haunting in Connecticut was a hoax. Lorraine Warren was reportedly not a fan of the haunting in Connecticut due to inaccuracies in the story. She stated in an interview, "It's embarrassing. Do you know the amount of time and effort that we put into that case? Do you know how many meetings with the clergy we had to finally bring closure to the family?" According to Lorraine, the real story of the haunting in Connecticut involved the Snedeker family, who purchased a home near the hospital where their son was receiving cancer treatment. As it turned out, the home was formerly a funeral home, and the family claimed that they began experiencing the usual strange sounds, demonic entities, possessions, etc. The Snedeker haunting came with its own book, In a Dark Place, which was written by Ed and Lorraine Warren, Carmen Reed, Al Snedeker, and Ray Garton. The Warrens hired Garton, a horror novelist, to help shape the Snedeker's narrative. According to Benjamin Radford, writing for Live Science, Garton told Horrorbound magazine that upon interviewing the family, he realized their stories weren't matching up. When Garton voiced his concerns to Ed Warren, the demonologist allegedly replied, "Oh, they're crazy," then added, "You've got some of the story, just use what works and make the rest up. Just make it up and make it scary."
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about.
Some have also suggested that
drugs
and
Ed.
mental illness factored into the Snedeker case rather than actual paranormal activity.
I mean, we've talked about schizophrenia and seeing things, and so that's what I'm talking about. Ed was like okay, they're just crazy. You just make it up. Take what you can get and make it up. Just make it scary.
I've seen videos of them together, and if anything, I think Lorraine is the one that probably comes up with that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because she seems to be like the dominant voice in that couple.
So we watch a lot of ghost shows and stuff, and we've seen the one we were talking about last night. They're very theatrical. They're very, like the one that you talk about, where the guy's always possessed. Every single time he goes into a house,
yes.
He's always possessed.
That guy's ridiculous.
People that do that for shows like that.
Right.
Just, to make it more interesting and, let's see if he's going to get possessed this time. It's just, you have to go into a place a lot of times. And the ones that I do believe are like, well, we didn't get that. We didn't get that much stuff. Like,
well, how many times have we gone into one place and not gotten shit?
Yeah, you don't feel anything.
And then you go back the next night and you get maybe a little voice, or you get a noise, or you get a weird smell.
Yep.
Especially if I've had burritos at night.
Well, I mean, how many times we went back to the cancer center?
Yeah.
Some nights it was completely nothing.
Yep.
There was no evidence at all. So
the Devil Made Me Do It case resulted in a lawsuit against Lorraine Warren. Arn Cheyenne Johnson was arrested and tried for killing his landlord, Alan Bono, in 1981. Johnson's defense argued that he was not in control of his actions due to demonic possession. Prior to Bono's murder, Johnson's fiancée, Debbie Glatzel, had an 11-year-old brother named David who allegedly began showing signs of demonic possession, and Glatzel called on the Warrens to help. Ed and Lorraine brought in priests and performed 3 lower exorcisms. Ed Warren noted that at one point there were 43 demons inside David. While the priests involved denied any exorcisms had actually transpired in the Glatzel home, David began to improve, especially after receiving counseling and moving to a private school. Johnson was not so lucky, as a few of the alleged demons exorcised from David's body entered his. He reportedly began growling and hissing, as well as slipping into on and off trances for a period of months before killing Bono with a 5-inch pocket knife. The Devil Made Me Do It plea was unsuccessful, and Johnson eventually went to prison for his crime. In 2007, Carl Glatzel, David's older brother, attempted to sue Lorraine Warren and Gerald Brittle, authors of The Devil in Connecticut, for unspecified damages. As part of his suit, Glatzel claims his family was manipulated by the Warrens and that they and Brittle concocted a phony story about demons in an attempt to get rich and famous at the Glatzel's expense.
See?
I mean, there's a lot of people coming out against them, but I don't know all the facts for that stuff, and so I can't really make a judgment call.
Right.
Other than what I'm reading here. I mean, it doesn't look good for him. For sure, it doesn't look good for him. But I remember hearing about this one, too, the Enfield Poltergeist. The Enfield Poltergeist case began in August of 1977, shortly after the Warrens investigated the Amityville haunting. The case centered mostly around 11-year-old Janet Hodgson, who was allegedly tormented and possessed by a poltergeist. The evil spirit was responsible for knocking sounds, strange voices, growling, levitation, and throwing objects across the room. The story became a media sensation and led to numerous investigations of Janet, her sister Peggy, and their home. Over the years, the haunting's authenticity has come into question, partly because much of the paranormal activity occurred when only Peggy and Janet were present. Audio recordings and photographs taken during nearly 2 years of investigations have also been scrutinized. Even Janet herself admitted to fabricating a small portion of the events that took place in the home. As for the Warrens' part in the investigation, they played only a small role in the case, despite the events depicted in The Conjuring 2. Apparently, the Warrens were initially denied access to the house and ended up only staying for 1 day, even though they cite it as one of their most famous cases.
So, as a poltergeist, usually it's a young person, like, that's starting to come into puberty. When they are stressed and anxious and have a lot of angst, anger, they can create its own energy. It's a ball of negative energy, and that's the poltergeist. So, yeah, it makes sense that she would have created her own poltergeist.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what they were seeing.
Yeah.
And she even admits to fabricating portions of it.
But, I mean, hey, it only took 3 little girls in Salem, Massachusetts in 1629 to kill a whole bunch of fucking people.
Right. And there were none of them
1629. I think it was a little later than that.
witches at all.
Yeah. In 1986, Janet and Jack Smirl reported demonic entities were terrorizing them in their home. The Warrens were called in to investigate the demonic activity, which included Jack's account of being assaulted by one of the demons. In an interview with a local news outlet, Ed said that the demonic entity was powerful, intangible, and very dangerous. However, not everyone was willing to accept the Smirls and Warren's statements. Paul Kurtz, a philosophy professor at the State University of New York, Buffalo, drew connections between the Smirls and the Lutz family in the Amityville case. Kurtz said one of the Warrens, they have no credentials in the scientific or parapsychological communities, and further added, there's no explanation for the Smirl house, but I wouldn't simply assume it was as a haunting. It seems to us that a great to-do has been made about it, and we wonder if it's like the Amityville Horror hoax, which was based on imagination rather than an actual haunting. Even members of the clergy brought in for the usual blessings and exorcisms reported nothing unusual happening there. The Warrens, however, never wavered in their belief that the Smirl home was severely haunted.
So you have to kind of believe the priest. I know this is really hard to hear from me, but
well, yeah, I mean,
they are saying like there's 3 of them where they brought in priests, and there's nothing there. There's nothing happening.
But you also have to look at.
So maybe it's Ed and
the other
Lorraine
side
Warren.
too. Okay, I'm not saying that the Warrens, everything they're saying is 100% pristinely true, but you have a lot of people that were already skeptics beforehand. Okay, so they're gonna find any reason to poo-poo any type of fantastical story of paranormal or parapsychology or whatever the fuck. Okay. So, or maybe they just didn't like these people because they were so prolific on the TV shows and all that other shit, and there were some famous hauntings. It's one of those things where you have to look at both sides because, like I said, there's 3 sides. There's their side, the other side, and the truth.
Right.
Sometimes you never know the truth, so
right.
You have to make up your own mind. And that's just the way I feel about it.
No, you're right. So I believe you're right. It's somewhere in the middle. Like they have to go out to a haunted house. The house has to be haunted for you to get them there, or at least be believable to get them to come to your house. So yeah, there is a small amount of haunting, but they embellish it for they're like, well, you're going to get millions of dollars.
Well, right, and as soon as money gets involved, then
you're going to be able to pay your house off, and you're going to be able to pay for your kids' college tuition, and you're going to be able to do this, and it's just a little lie, and it's not going to be that bad. And
right. So here's another list here. This is from Listverse. 10 most haunting cases investigated by Ed and Lorraine Warren. So I'm going to be repeating myself a little bit on these, but that's all right. Let's see. In 1952, the Warrens founded the oldest ghost hunting group in New England. They also wrote numerous books on their paranormal investigations and developed personal insights into thousands of paranormal cases throughout their career. On April 18, 2019, Lorraine Warren died peacefully in her sleep at age 92. Ed Warren had preceded her in death in 2006 at age 79. Before I get into this, there's one paranormal investigator that is my favorite. And we've just watched, or at least I have just watched a whole series on him, and that's Hans Holzer, which is like, he was the first American ghost hunter ever. And the guy was fantastic. Now, I'm on the fence about mediums because some I think are fake and some are really legit. And it's hard to find which ones are which. But the way that this group, that they've listened to all of Hans Holzer's old tapings where he walks into these houses with a medium and he records her and talks to the owners of the house and all that stuff, and they get some really fascinating information. Well, this new team goes in and they reinvestigate where he went, and they actually try and find some paranormal evidence to back up the claims. And the medium that they have is pretty dead on, in my opinion. She has been shown to be accurate multiple times with stuff.
Right.
And of course, they say she goes in cold and doesn't know anything about the place.
Right.
Part of me skeptical about that, because some of these places they go to are famous places. How can you not know about them? You know what I'm saying? But that notwithstanding,
but if she were to hear about it, she would fall under the guise of saying what, like that spot on the wood.
Right.
Everyone has said that's where he died, and that blood. He bled out,
and it wasn't blood.
And
at
she
all.
put her hand on there, and she goes, "This is not blood."
Right. And that's why she's got a lot of credibility in my eyes because it seems like everything that she has done and said has been pretty accurate. Now, if anybody wants to watch that show, it's on Discovery Plus. It's called the Holzer Files. It's a fantastic show. If you're really into ghost hunting shows, I would recommend it highly.
There is one guy on there that aggravates the crap out of Billy and his mom, apparently.
Guy.
So she feels the same way that he does.
There's always one guy, and he's the overdramatic.
Oh, he's the equipment tech.
Bitch.
He's
Something touched
supposed
me.
to just be doing the camera stuff.
No, that's not what a tech engineer is. They're also ghost hunters. They're not just, I'm going to stand here and mess with the equipment bullshit. They got to go and investigate, too.
And they keep going to these more haunted, and like by midway, he's cool. He's a little high strung. He's a little high strung,
So number 10 for the Lorraine family here. In 1970, the Perron family moved into an old farmhouse in Rhode Island. It wasn't long before their dream home became their worst nightmare. Carolyn, Roger, and their 5 children witnessed a tall woman in a gray dress roaming the house. Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated the home and discovered that the woman was a 19th century witch named Bathsheba, who had sacrificed her baby to the devil before hanging herself from a tree in the backyard. Bathsheba was a constant penetrating force in the house and fought with Carolyn for dominance. Carolyn's daughter Andrea recalls, Bathsheba loathed my mother and she lusted after my father. My mother was never allowed to resume her rightful position as mistress of the house. Andrea added, it wanted to be the dominating force and we fought it for a long time. I guess we now know who won, as we left and the ghost is still there. That little sentence alone sounds very fantastical.
Yeah, that's what I was just
thinking.
Bathsheba,
isn't that like an old like Bible name?
Yeah. Yep. So why does the woman in the gray dress have to be this,
Why does she have to be a 19th
demon
century witch?
Yeah, witch. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe some of these stories just because...
That's the real one.
Yeah.
That's...
So, number 9 is Annabelle, where they're actually showing a real Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah.
Instead of the creepy one they used in the fucking movie.
Right.
Which has nothing to do with Raggedy Ann. But you also have to take into consideration, too, that these producers that make these movies are also looking to make a quick buck, so they gotta embellish and make everything flashy. Mm-hmm. Instead of actually just making it almost like a documentary, which to me would be interesting as well.
Right.
Ed and Lorraine Warren's Occult Museum is a permanent home to the Annabelle doll, which is kept in a special protected case. In 1970, this Raggedy Ann doll was given to 28-year-old Donna, and it wasn't long before she and her roommate noticed that Annabelle was moving around the apartment on its own. So she was the original Elf on a Shelf?
I was going to say, that's Elf on the Shelf. Right. So her roommate was fucking with her.
Probably.
Moving that Raggedy Ann
her boyfriend or
doll
something like
around.
that.
Yeah.
They also found
Do they
random
have a
notes.
cat?
Yeah. They also found random notes scrawled on parchment that read, "Help us."
So that's plural.
At first, they thought this was all a prank, but when events worsened, they decided to call in a medium. During the seance, they were able to contact a spirit named Annabelle, who had died when she was 7 years old. Ed and Lorraine heard of this and warned the woman that a demonic presence was manipulating the doll in a bid to find a human host. After the Warrens witnessed Annabelle's levitating, they removed the doll permanently from the apartment and placed her in the sealed glass case at her museum. In 2020, social media abounded with rumors that Annabelle had escaped the museum, but this was later determined to be a hoax, the fault of a poorly translated story into Chinese. So what is a glass box going to do on
with
capturing
the demon?
A spirit?
They can go through that stuff, so yeah.
I mean,
that's so you'll go to the museum and look at it.
Yeah, that's redonkulous. They probably didn't even take the real doll. They went and bought a new one and just put it in there.
Never know.
The Snedeker House, number 8. In 1986, the Snedeker family moved from New York to Connecticut so they could be closer to the hospital that was treating their eldest son for cancer. Unfortunately, the family home on Meridian Avenue in Southington that they purchased was a former funeral home, although they had to make this chilling discovery on their own. First of all, shouldn't the realtor have told them that?
They don't have to disclose that. Realtor does not have to disclose that the house is haunted.
That should be illegal.
They don't have to. It's just a home. They're selling you the home, not the story of the home or the history of the home.
Okay, but that still should be illegal because you don't know what you're getting.
It's a house.
That's like buying a car and somebody not telling you that somebody was like murdered in the back of it.
They don't have to tell you that either.
They're like, you can buy this car. It's a really nice car. And then you open the back and it's like, why does it smell like a dead fucking body back here?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's strange. We'll get our team in there to shampoo it for you.
So, with it being a funeral home, your spirit stays with the body for a little while. So,
there's going to be ghosts.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Funeral homes are known to have that because they hold the body. They have wakes. It's just laid out there. They embalm in the basement.
Right.
You know, your body, your soul's still attached to your body for a little while if you're not immediately gone. So, yeah, you buy a funeral home, you're going to have ghosts. And they were already in a lowered mental capacity having their baby in the hospital with cancer. Like, they're already stressed.
Yeah. After renovations on the house were complete, Carmen Snedeker entered the basement for the first time. There she found embalming equipment and body tags with the names of the deceased.
I mean, you're going to find that.
The family soon realized that the house was infested with demons. Carmen witnessed the water in her mop bucket turning a different color. She recalled the mop water was blood red. I mean a deep, deep red. It made my skin crawl. The middle son said the lights were coming on and off, even though there was no bulbs in it. So...
how's that possible? That doesn't need... okay, logically that makes no sense. There's no bulbs in it. How's the light coming on?
Was he sticking his finger in the fucking socket?
Are you 5 and you're just making the story up?
Right. Now, the mop water was blood red. That could be anything. If it's concrete, it probably soaks some of that blood in. So every time she mopped the floor down there, fucking getting residual blood.
Look, we're South Carolina. There's freaking red mud everywhere.
Yeah. Yep.
You track it in on your shoes. If you add a little bit of that red mud to the water, what's going to happen?
So Ed and Lorraine Warren assisted in performing an exorcism on the house, which has brought closure to the family. Since then, no further paranormal activity has occurred. The Snedeker family remained in the house for 2 more years before they relocated to Tennessee. It's still a private residence, but people have been known to stop by and look at the property from a distance.
So just one exorcism got all those demons out.
Yeah. Dude, now you know this
I mean, you watch that one, what is it, The Dead Files. She tells people, just move. You can't get these demons out.
Yeah.
So how can one exorcism take all... if they were like demons everywhere from the paragraph before? I gotta
tell you this next story. This picture is so epic because you can tell this was the 70s and 80s. She's got pictures of Starsky and Hutch on the wall.
She does. You see that? That's so cool.
Fucking brilliant, dude. And look at this shitty rug and this shitty wallpaper.
Yep.
They bought that from Shitty Walk.
They did.
The Enfield Poltergeist terrorized a small London house in the Enfield suburb. Between 1977 and 1979, single parent Peggy Hodgson and her 2 daughters, Margaret 13 and Janet 11, experienced furniture being thrown around, small objects flying across rooms, and picture frames falling from the walls. The children would find themselves levitating out of their beds. These paranormal events were witnessed by their neighbors, journalists, and even police officers. The younger daughter, Janet, had also begun speaking in a deep, masculine voice, which was believed to be the spirit of an old man. The family had received a lot of negative attention in the press as the young girls were accused of attention-seeking behavior. When Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated, they found it was a case of demonic possession. Janet later admitted that she had played with a Ouija board before the disturbances had begun, and she was unaware that she fell into the trances until she was later shown in the photographs. The family continued to live in the house even as people attempted to debunk the story as only a money-making plot. Mary Hodgson died in 2003, and her daughter Janet still believes the possession actually occurred. I'm noticing a trend that everything is fucking demonic.
Right.
Which probably is not the case at all.
No. I'm not saying demons do exist.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. Demons
but not every single haunting is a fucking demon.
No. Demons are rooted. This is going to take more than...
And children are very imaginative.
Yes, honey.
So they could say that they were in a trance or they could make believe shit, and it's not true at all. I mean, again, the Salem Witch Trials was created by fantastical stories of children who were told about scary stories from their nanny, Tituba, who was a Haitian. I think she was Haitian or Jamaican or something. Yeah. Anyway, In the early 1970s, Ed and Lorraine Warren met with their terrified Donovan family at their house. On arrival, the Warrens witnessed loud pounding coming from inside the walls, peeling wallpaper, water running blood red, and beast-like noises echoing through the home. It sounds like... Never mind. The Warrens questioned the Donovan family. Had they purchased any unusual secondhand items, or had a family member passed away recently? Nothing was discovered until the youngest daughter, Patty, made her confession. She had used a Ouija board to communicate with a teenage boy who had died in the neighborhood 10 years earlier. The spirit never revealed his name to Patty, and the Warrens knew this was more than likely a demonic entity disguised as the boy. The Warrens immediately called for a priest. Following an exorcism, life inside the Donovan home slowly returned to normal. Ted Donovan's brother, who was a witness to the possession and the exorcism, wrote in a report, I nor anyone else in my family have ever before witnessed anything so weird and terrifying.
Can I say something?
Of course you can.
Okay. So it sounds like pipes. You know how old pipes
That's what she said.
will shake inside the wall?
Yeah.
And they make that groaning noise?
Yeah, those old fucking lead pipes through the house.
That's exactly what it sounds like. Okay, roll up. It's saying the peeling wallpaper.
Which
if
the
you have
water,
pipes that are
if you
sweating,
got water behind that wallpaper, it's going to peel
and
right
the water blending, running blood red.
That's got
that
iron
could be,
in it.
Yeah, and it could be mixing with the paste or whatever the wallpaper went up with. The beast-like noises could be that pipe noise, that wah. You know what I mean? From the pipes.
Yeah.
And the pipes banging on the wall.
That sentence alone just opens up a whole different viewpoint from me.
What?
Beast-like noises.
The walls are very thin.
Hey, baby, want to come over to my house and make some beast-like noises?
It was the pipes.
I'll make you curl your wallpaper.
It was the pipes.
I want to curl your wallpaper,
it
baby.
Was demons, kids. It
demons
was demons.
did it.
See, that's what you tell your kids.
Right?
If you're having sex and they hear you, just say it's demons and the house is haunted.
We were performing an exorcism in the room.
We have to bring a priest in now.
We have to get the demon. Oh, if you start bringing a priest in and your kids are like, what the fuck?
Are you Mormons and you're soaking and you just have to have the priest jump on the bed?
The priest is jumping on the bed, exactly. Exactly. The Smirl Family. In 1974, the Smirl Family went through their own personal hell after moving to West Pittston, Pennsylvania. Janet and Jack Smirl, their youngest daughters, and Jack's parents all lived in the house together and suffered the worst 13 years of their lives. I love the picture. You can tell
their face.
It's the almost 80s.
What is her hair? She has a perm and she's picked it out.
Not only that is a Aquanet hairdo right there.
No duh. Look at this. The girl to the left. She's got a perm and she's chopped it at her ears.
Oh yeah. What? Yeah. Full can.
Look at those glasses are the whole size of their face.
Yes. Wow. Gotta love that time of decades. The
Yep.
paranormal activity began when their home renovations were found to be destroyed. New wallpaper peeled from the walls, freshly painted windows cracked, strange odors filled every room, and disturbing voices were heard throughout the house. Janet even revealed that she was molested one night in her bed by a malevolent force.
Oh. So, what is the common thread in all of this?
Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Wallpaper.
Wallpaper and demons.
Wallpaper is demons. Wallpapers have demons in them.
That's why we don't ever do wallpaper anymore.
Don't do wallpaper
nowadays.
and you
it's
want
all
a
just
demon.
you just paint your walls and
Yep.
you're good.
There
the
you go.
Smirls were terrified and decided to contact Ed and Lorraine Warren for help. Lorraine discovered that the Smirl family home was infested with 4 spirits: a harmless elderly woman, an old man who had died at the house, a young and violent girl, and a demon that controlled the other spirits and had turned them against the family. The incident stopped on October 1986, and the family moved back to Wilkes-Barre in 1988. Reportedly, a church-sanctioned exorcism took place there, and the property has been cleared of all activity ever since.
Maybe that molestation wasn't the ghost.
Who knows? Who the fuck knows? Let's see. There are many... This one's the Union Cemetery. There are many eyewitness accounts of the White Lady who haunts the Union Cemetery in Easton, Connecticut. It is known as one of the most haunted cemeteries in the United States. The White Lady has also been seen walking in front of people's cars as they drive along Route 59 late at night. Concerned drivers believe that they had hit a person and exited their vehicles only to discover that nobody was there. The White Lady name came from witnesses saying she wore either a white gown or what appeared to be a wedding dress. In 1990, Ed and Lorraine Warren set up their cameras in the cemetery to record the investigation. Shortly after 2:40 a.m., they heard the sound of a woman weeping, and a female form had begun to move several feet in their direction. As Ed approached the woman, she vanished from sight. Nowadays, the cemetery is known to close after sunset. You ever notice every graveyard has a quote-unquote white lady?
Yeah.
Why can't there be a black lady? So fucking racist.
Maybe they don't see them.
Can't see the black lady?
Because of your color spectrum. The
dark,
light spectrum.
And she's wearing black?
Yeah, it's light spectrum.
I don't know, man. It's just stupid. That, to me, is like urban legend bullshit.
Yeah,
Every fucking cemetery has a white lady.
Right.
It's just silly. It's silly, I tell ya. All right. Ooh, this one's interesting. The demonic werewolf in London.
Ooh.
Bill Ramsey was considered living proof that werewolves really do exist. Born in Southend-on-Sea, England, Ramsey recalled an event in childhood in which he felt strange before a powerful rage came over him, and he was able to uproot an entire fence. As an adult, he would witness his face transforming into a wolf and his hands twisting into claws. Ed and Lorraine became involved when London police officers reported being attacked by a werewolf. Ed said, "This was the first case of lycanthropy that we had ever come across. I interviewed the police officers that this man actually attacked. Now he stands about 5'7" and weighs about 150 pounds. But he would take some of these police officers who were well over 6 feet, and he would throw them around like they were kindling wood." In 1989, the Warrens convinced Ramsey to come to their church in Connecticut and undergo an exorcism. During the event, Ramsey's face contorted, and he launched at the exorcist. Then all was calm, and the exorcism was a success. Since then, there have been no more incidents recorded. I'm calling bullshit because we all know exorcisms don't take care of lycanthropy.
No.
Silver bullets do.
Right.
Or
Agreed.
finding a Romanian gypsy to take the curse off of you. Because lycanthropy is a curse, and it's also a disease.
So, Ed Warren was a self-proclaimed demonologist. He had no training, so maybe he was also a gypsy.
He might have been.
A gypsy woman.
Might have been. Well, there you go, people. The jury's still out. You can decide whether you believe a lot of Ed and Lorraine Warren's bullshit or not.
Tell us what you think.
Tell us what you think.
What's your opinion?
TheDeadTimeRadio@gmail.com. Make sure to visit our website, TheDeadTimeRadioShow.com. Leave us comments. Leave us emails. We'll talk to you soon.
Love ya.
Bye-bye.